Thinker Television, brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter, Peterson Toyota and Toyota Trucks, moving forward. Coldwell Banker, every day until it's sold. St. Croix Ride, best rides on earth. Evinrude, spend more time on the water. Good morning, welcome to Fishful Thinker. It's April in Colorado, and it's really cold, and we're bass fishing. And we got a big one hooked up, it feels like, right here. Now, we appreciate you joining us this morning. This is the way we like to start our morning, every morning. And I'm here to tell you that this whole show is gonna be about cold water bass fishing. Most people don't want to bass fish when it's real cold. Well, we're gonna dispel that. And we got one right off the bat. So just getting rolling right there. We're hoping to catch some bigger ones than that. But it's early spring. We got sub 50-degree water, and we're getting after the largemouth bass. And that's a good start. We hadn't made but probably 10 casts. We're just getting rolling. We get this one put back. Beautiful fish, looks great in the sun. We'll set him back right down here. And that's probably hopefully we'll get a lot bigger ones than that before it's over with here. This is gonna be a fun show, folks. We're gonna try to get you to think a little bit outside the box when it comes to early spring fishing here in Colorado. We're high elevation, freezing cold out. This is gonna be a fun show, stay tuned. As you just saw, got the show off to an exciting start. I love it when your plan goes together right off the bat, and how you think's gonna work is the deal. Now, one thing I'm gonna tell you, like I said, this water is not even 50 degrees. We're in a gravel quarry pond. It's crystal clear, or very clear anyway. And as you can see, I'm working a bait real aggressively, and a lot of times people will tell you a real aggressive retrieve in cold water is not the deal. But my reasoning is, and why we're gonna show you today that it can be the deal, is the fish aren't necessarily feeding. So the key is to get them to react to the bait, and that's what you're gonna see me do a lot today, is really rip on the bait. The bait I'm throwing is a lipless crankbait, and a lipless crankbait dives under its own weight, and it does not require being retrieved to dive. So when I rip it up off the bottom, as you see me doing, and it starts fluttering back down, that's when we're gonna get our bites. Got him. All right, now I actually just had that fish bite, and then he came off, and I threw right back and got him. He's got me. Oh, he came off. Oh, no. He short struck me the first time, and I got a scale. I threw right back to him, and he came off that time. I can't even get the bait off my hand. The hooks are so sharp, and ay, caramba. All right, well, okay, one's a fluke, two's a theory, three's a pattern. We have gotten 3 bites in like a couple of casts. So we're pretty confident that we're getting a pattern working here. We'll see if we can get some more of them to bite it. And you're gonna see us mix it up. We're gonna strictly power fish today. We are not gonna finesse fish at any level. As you can see, it's very bright out, it's a little breezy, it's a high pressure day. And the reason that we're fishing these power techniques is because I really don't expect the fish will bite very well. So by working really aggressive, real snappy retrieves, that's how I expect to be able to catch them today. And you're gonna see us pulling this bait through a lot of weeds and see me ruin a lot of casts, just like that, covered with weed growth. And that's why these bass get big in here. This particular pond happens to be strictly catch and release as well, which is a reason that we're hopefully gonna show you some real big ones today. Oh, what I'm looking at is little humps out here, and I can see them with my glasses. And those humps, the reason I can see them is there's weeds that have just started to grow. And those weeds are coming up from the bottom almost to the top. And because of that, you can see I'm catching them every time. And I'm gonna do that all day long. And you've seen us work lipless baits in other shows, hopefully you have. You'll know that lipless baits and weed beds go together perfectly. And that's what we're looking at right here, is how to get these fish out of these weed beds. All right, still working those same weed beds. Hadn't even moved yet since we started fishing here, and I've never been to this pond before. And this show, just like a lot of other Fishful Thinker shows, is not about this pond. This show is about this style of fishing. If you live in the West, there's gravel quarries somewhere near where you live. And it may be April and this water may be really cold, but no one told this largemouth right here. Now this is a fatty. I'm gonna get him off here real careful. And somebody's fished with this fish or played with this fish before. If you look right here, he's been caught. And he's been caught just now once again. And good start. I mean, we literally hadn't been fishing for 10 minutes and we've had 3 fish. And I've never been to this pond, but if you notice, the wind's blowing in right here and the wind's blowing right on us right here, right on the bank right in front of me. Classic spot. It's a sheltered bank. We've got shelter from the wind that should be blowing the other side, so a good spot for fish to spawn. Again, this fish has been released. He's a testament to catch and release. We're gonna do the same. Good luck. Give him a kiss. Beautiful largemouth. Gotta like that. Start our day. So literally we're just getting started here. In just a couple of minutes, just bang, bang. And the deal is to rip that lipless crankbait, throw it out in the weeds, rip it out of the weeds, and boom, they just load it up right when it comes out of the weeds. It's a great deal. This water is not even 50 degrees. It's very cold. Most people want to throw real small or real subtle baits, but the fish aren't going to bite well in that condition, so it's better to throw sometimes a bait that's very fast or very erratic or very shiny. Just try to get the fish to react on it. That fish fell for our tricks. If you're a fan of Fishful Thinker, you know that we use lipless crankbaits to catch a variety of fish, and today's show is no different. But not all lipless crankbaits are created equal. Several of the baits on the market these days are designed to drop in the water column. So you cast the bait, retrieve it, and then kill it and let it drop straight down. You'll notice that some of the baits are more rounded. Those are typically designed as drop baits. The high-speed baits, which we commonly use if we're going to cast and retrieve it, is more along the lines of a traditional rattle trap, which is really the bait that invented the genre. Day in and day out, if I'm choosing one, it's a rattle trap. But keep in mind that a bait that's more round like this one or more dynamic like this one will make a difference in whether you retrieve the bait or you allow it to drop straight down in the water column. Choosing your lipless crankbait to match your conditions will catch you more fish. One thing you notice, like I said, we haven't even moved. We've just been here a couple of minutes and just been hitting these little shallow weed pockets. Hopefully the camera can pick some of those up. Those are high spots. The weeds growing to the surface. I'm throwing right near them, rip the bait out, and boom, they get bites. The thing is, it's very hard on line. I've got 12-pound trilene 100% fluorocarbon on here, and that's very hard on your line, and particularly your knots. So every so often, whether I catch a fish or not, you're gonna see me retie this line. Certainly every fish or every other fish, we're definitely gonna retie the knot. Keep that in mind if you're fishing around the heavy weed growth. Fresh knots are very important. Now what I'm using for overall tackle, like I said, I've got 12-pound trilene 100% fluorocarbon. I've got a 7-foot medium power, but it's an extra fast action, a fast action St. Croix rod. And the reason I have the fast rod, even though a lot of guys will tell you a lipless crankbait's better on a slower action, softer rod, is because I want to be able to rip this bait out of the weeds. That's really important. The other aspect of this setup that's nice is I've got a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel right here, and that 7-to-1 means for every time I turn this handle, this reel goes around 7 times. That's the fastest gear ratio made. That means I can take up a lot of slack in a hurry. When I'm ripping the bait free, I can take that slack up in a hurry. So I can take the bait, throw it out, rip it up off the bottom, take up the slack, and rip it. It's a very aggressive retrieve for sub 50-degree water. It's a great way to get bites. So everything I'm carrying with me is very little stuff. I just got a little bit of tackle here in the box. And I just broke off the bait that I've been catching fish with, okay? And because I'm traveling light and because I'm pond fishing and I'm not out in the Ranger boat, I don't have a ton of tackle with me, and I do that for a reason. One, half the fun of pond fishing is that you don't have to have a ton of tackle with you. And two, because I know basically what I like to throw under these conditions, and I knew what the conditions were going to be before we got here. I knew we were going to have relatively clear water. I knew it was going to be breezy just because it was on the weather forecast. So I knew that a lipless bait yo-yoed would be a good call. Well, the one I lost was a completely different color than this, and I'm not panicking on it, because I have other baits that are the same color as the one I lost, and you'd think, well, geez, why wouldn't you tie those on? Well, I'll tell you why we wouldn't tie those on. Because the action is more important than the color. This bait has the exact same action as the one that I just lost, and therefore, it's the bait I'm gonna use. Now it looks like I'm standing here throwing out in the middle of the lake, but I'm working those grass beds. You've seen us, anytime you've seen us on Fishful Thinker fishing grass, you'll see us making some of our longest throws. And the reason is covering water around grass. It's hard to pick out the subtleties in the grass, especially from here on the bank. So sometimes making those long throws can make a lot of difference. So that's yet another reason for the long rod, is I can make the long throws, still get a hook set from out there. I'll tell you though, I hook a 6-pounder out there, it could be interesting in all that grass. Okay, so we moved around the lake a little bit. The first place we started, actually you can see is over my shoulder. There's several folks moving in on us over there. Saw us catch those fish. It's one of the things about Fishful Thinker here is we fish public ponds. Those guys saw us catch those first couple and didn't take them long to come say hi. So we're moving our way around the lake, but one of the things I'm gonna look for, because it's April and this is very cold water, one of the things I'm gonna look for is the first green weeds, those first grass beds that start to come up. We moved down the bank here, I'm not seeing that grass, and it's probably gonna keep us moving. Continue to move our way around the pond. One thing, whenever you're fishing a pond you've never been to, one of the beauties of a pond is you've got them surrounded. You can walk around most of it, or if not all of it. In this case, we can definitely walk all the way around it. We may do that. I may figure out by the time we get halfway around it that the fish are definitely on those weed beds like I think they would be. That's my intuition on it. That's where we started this morning because of it, and we caught them right away, or this afternoon, I should say. Another thing to point out, speaking of since I said afternoon, we did not even get here until like 1 o'clock. And the reason being is it's, like I said, it's early April. It's very cold water, and that warming trend that this sun will put in the water over the course of the day should make our bite get a little better. So as long as the wind doesn't get crazy and run us out of here, it should get better as we go during the day. All right, so now we're at the other end of the lake, and we loaded another one up, and now this one was real subtle. I didn't even feel it. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I did not even feel this fish bite. He just kind of loaded up on the bank right here, right in front of me. Didn't even know I'd been bit. And real subtle bite. Got a solid hook on him. All right, there we go. Another one real similar to the others, and maybe a little smaller than the others, but that's all right. We're happy to see him. Now we're in a completely other end of the pond, and we're away from the grass beds. So he's not really gonna fit our pattern, but we'll keep working with him. We'll see if we can get some others out of here. Now, I might not have felt him bite, but he wasn't gonna come off, that's for sure. All right, now, there we go. Another perfect early spring largemouth, not a giant, but we're happy to see him. We'll put him back here. You can see how clear this water is. You can watch him take off out of here. Beautiful fish. Now, you can see a bunch of bluegills in the shallow right here in the shallow water, and that was part of the reason we stopped to fish here as well. But beautiful fish, still yo-yoing the same lipless crankbait and still catching fish. Goes to show you, water doesn't have to be warm to get them on a fast bait. There's fish right here. All right. Now we're still working the same spot. What we're finding, which is typical in early spring, is that the fish will school. And this is definitely a noticeably smaller fish than anything else we've caught so far. But we hadn't been here an hour yet, so it's been a very productive outing so far for a lake I've never been to. And let me be careful about that. Now that's just a wee little tyke right there. However, he is definitely driving home the fact that our fish are grouped up. We caught 3 in one spot on the other side. Then we move around the lake a little bit. We go for a while, we don't catch any. Make maybe 50 casts working down the bank, don't catch any. Get down here, catch a couple more. So he's just a wee little tyke. That's a little pre-spawn male, keep from falling in the lake here. But we'll put him down in this real clear water and you can see him. What a beautiful fish. You see him sneak out of here and back out into the deep water. Now, the same as the others, working that bait, rip it up, and as it's falling down, it just loads up and the fish just dump it. We've had some fish that really drilled it, and we've had a couple that just kind of sipped it. That one absolutely clobbered it. But I rip it up, you can see the water disappears to the weed line, rip it out of the weeds, let it flutter down, fish just bites it real simple. So, you know, it might be cold out, it's a real nice warm day, but it might be really cold water here early April. You can see we still got snow on the hills around us, but doesn't mean that you shouldn't be out bass fishing. If you wait till all these trees green up, you're too late. Okay, so one of the things about fishing ponds like this is a little public pond like every show Every Fishful Thinker episode, we hit public water. That's what we do. One of the things about it that can be key is doing stuff different than everybody else. And we've had a half dozen anglers come by and nobody's doing the kind of fishing we're doing right now. I've seen some spinner baits. We saw a guy with a floating rapala, saw a guy with a jig, but nobody's been ripping the lipless crankbait out of the grass beds. And it's a really key way, especially in this real cold water, to get bites. But when you're walking around the pond like this and looking, one of the things in the early spring that's really important is the bluegills. And as we walking down the trail right here, I look down and I can see some bluegills in the water right here. That's a good sign, because guess what? Bass eat bluegills. That's no shocker, right? Well, they're both looking for warm water early in the spring. So if there's bluegills here, it's not even so much I expect the bass to be eating them. It's that that's probably a relatively warm spot. It's where the sun is hitting the bottom of the lake and it's giving them a chance to get some solar energy. Sub 50-degree water, little lipless crankbait, beautiful sunny day in the spring. Anywhere the sun's hitting the bottom can be a good call. Another thing that's really important when you're working down, no, I hung the bottom there. Oh, I got him. Oh, no, he came off. Had him. Now that tells you right there, folks, because what happened is this bait loaded up in the weeds. I thought I got a bite. I ripped out of the weeds, boom, it loaded up right away. And then it came back to the weeds because I missed the hook set. I should have stuck with my presentation, but I was trying to talk to you guys. I felt the bait hit the bottom and hit the weeds, pulled the bait loose thinking I actually got bit. As soon as it came loose, I really did get bit. And I truthfully don't think it was a very big fish, but he thumped it good, and I was not ready because I was talking to you guys. So sorry about that, but we'll throw it back. But what I was starting to say before I was interrupted by that fish is that most of the time, fishing some degree parallel with the banks can be really good. Unless you've got submerged beds out here or something like that, a lot of the time, particularly early in the spring, fishing close to the banks can be really good. Another thing that can be really key to look for, especially in early spring and especially in a lake you haven't been to, is cattails. I've got a big patch of cattails that's coming out, and as you can see, this bank is otherwise all around. There's not a lot of cattails here. Cattails only live on a dark mud bottom. That's the deal. And so where those cattails come out into the lake right here, that's going to be a real dark black bottom, which means it's going to soak up a lot of sunlight. So I'll make a long throw past my cattails with my lipless crankbait, let it go down a little bit, and then start to ripping it off that bottom and rip it through that mud and see if we can get somebody to load it up. Right there's one right there, right on command, just like you're supposed to. Got him. Nicely done. Oh. The horror of it all. Oh, now my thing sunk into the weeds on top of it. Oh, you're kidding me. That fish absolutely clobbered it right on the mud. Right as I came through the mud, I ripped it out of there and he drilled it, and I did not keep him pinned. I might have to sit down after that one. And it looks like probably that I'm throwing out in the open water, but I'm actually throwing parallel to the bank that turns right here just past me. And I'm throwing parallel to the bank, and I'm hitting another grass bed. Got a little stick up there, but there's a big grass bed out here, and that's what we're trying to get. Now, as you notice also, I'm throwing casting gear. And I know a lot of you out there don't throw casting gear, and that's fine. I've got no problem throwing this on a spinning rod as well. I could very easily be doing exactly what I'm doing with a heavy enough spinning rod. I like the casting gear because it's very efficient for me. I'm very comfortable with it, but you don't have to. You could be doing this with a 7-foot spinning rod just the same. You know, we purposely came down and we fished the second half of the day, and we actually had a front that blew through right after we got here and got real windy for a little bit, almost too windy to film. And then it blew through, and now of course we're getting a real calm afternoon here in the Rocky Mountains. And so, yeah, generally I'm an advocate of fishing in the afternoons in the spring when the water's cold. It gives it a chance to warm over the course of the day and gives you a chance for your fish to get more active. In this case, I think if we got here first thing this morning, a couple hours ahead of that front, instead of like a couple of minutes ahead of that front, we might have had a more productive outing than we had. Either way, we caught some beautiful fish and spent some nice time on the pond. So the thing about fishing gravel quarries wherever you go is if you notice, there's There's islands and humps and saddles and ridges. Generally, the gravel quarries are very random. They don't have a deep end and a shallow end as a general rule. They generally don't have inlets and outlets. So when you come to approach a gravel quarry pond, when you come to, whew, thought I had a bite there. When you come to approach a gravel quarry pond, there's not necessarily a lot of rhyme or reason to how the pond lays out. So keep that in mind, that it may just be kind of random. So be very cognizant of the fact you might have a real deep spot right here in front of us, some real shallow, and not really any rhyme or reason like you'd find in a traditional reservoir. Well, hopefully we've shown you some stuff today that'll get you out and think about fishing for bass, even in the very cold water. It might be early April and we might be in the Rocky Mountains and this water is very cold, but it doesn't mean you can't go out and catch some largemouth bass. And we had a good time doing it today. The high-speed baits, the lipless crankbaits on the relatively fast-action rods, the reaction bite is really what we're all about here today. And hopefully we showed you that, and hopefully you learned some things and give you a shot at it. Cold water is not just for tiny little baits and slow presentations. Sure, they have their place, but it's not the only way to catch them, particularly around the grass. So the other thing that's important, this show is not about this pond. We've done this a lot of times on Fishful Thinker. It's about these types of ponds. So please take it and apply it wherever you live. Hopefully it'll help you catch some fish earlier in the year. If you wait for all the green leaves, you're too late. You miss some of the really good bites. So we appreciate you joining us again this week here on Fishful Thinker, and we'll hope to see you next week. Let me try that again. Golly. Hang on, I get to go one more. That's 2 in a row I fouled. Fish. Oh, it came off. It wasn't a fish either. It was a stick up of some sort. Maybe one of those little wiry ones sticking up like that. Oh yeah, see? Oh yeah, that's a nice stick. Just kidding. Dude, am I really gonna lose 4 crankbaits in one day?